Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections in mind, and welcome to another installment in my review and reaction series to each and every episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. If you've never seen any of my other review and reaction episodes before, this is just my series where I give my brief overview of each new episode of whichever series I happen to be reviewing as soon as it comes out, or a couple days after the fact, in the case of this video. I give some brief thoughts on the episode, what I thought worked and didn't work, what I liked and disliked, as well as some analysis as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Just to get this out of the way, this will be a full spoiler review of the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery, so if you've not seen this latest episode yet, I highly recommend coming back to this video when you have, because this will be full-on spoilers from here on out. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 11, entitled Su'Kal. Su'Kal, in fact, is the name of the being who is, in fact, the single life sign on a planet in the middle of a nebula, which the crew of the Discovery has pinpointed to be the source of the original burn. And so they go to this this planet, and they find that it is a fairly intense radiation field around this planet, but also the planet itself is made up of almost pure dilithium, which, you know, is kind of interesting and also very potentially useful to the Federation and the Emerald Chain, who is short. Everyone's short on dilithium, so this is a significant discovery. However, it is revealed by Saru that while there was a message, a distress signal sent out from the ship that crash landed on this planet from a Kelpian, it turns out that while the spots on her face, as seen in the recording in a previous episode, were not in fact a symptom of radiation poisoning, they were in fact an indication that this woman was pregnant. And so the single life sign on the planet, after 120 some years after the fact, could well have been the child of this original distress call sender. So Saru, Burnham, and Culper all beamed down to this planet. However, this planet has an interesting surprise to it. They found the ship that had crash landed on this planet. However, they beamed into what seems to be a gigantic holodeck. And not only just a gigantic holodeck, but they find out that this holodeck has altered their appearances. So Burnham now appears to be a Trill, Culber apparently is a Bajoran, and Saru is a human, which in this case was fairly easy. It's just Doug Jones without his Kelpian makeup on. So the holodeck has altered their appearances, all of this, and it seems that this holodeck program that is happening on this planet, on this ship, and there's some malfunctioning people holograms scattered about, was all meant to keep company this child who was meant to grow up on this planet the whole time until rescue happened, which of course hasn't happened until now, 100 plus years after the fact. So this world, this holographic world, is all this child whose name is revealed to be Su'Kal later on has ever known. So this is sort of a tricky situation. And while the Wade team is trying to reach this child and convince it that there is an outside world, that they're there to help it, things that he may not understand, there's also a threat, a holographic threat, but a real threat to this child nonetheless. Outside on Discovery, they're holding position outside the nebula so that they can jump back in to this towards the planet and rescue them after, since they have a ticking clock on this planet of theoretically 4 hours before this radiation poisoning will seriously affect them. However, it seems that the Emerald Chain, and specifically Osira, has figured out a way to track Discovery's spore drive jumps, and is now tracked Discovery to this nebula. And with Tilly in command while Saru is on the planet, she is faced with some difficult choices of whether to because while she recognizes that the Emerald Chain and Osira want Discovery for its spore drive, they can't abandon their away team and this child on the planet, and also the potential to unlock the mystery of the burn. So she's been trying to hold position. Book decides to take his ship into the nebula to try and rescue the away team while Discovery jumps away. However, it seems that decision was reached too late. A boarding party boards Discovery and hijacks the engine room, puts some sort of device on Stamets' head. It seems like a mind control sort of thing. So now they effectively have control of Discovery's spore drive, and then Osira and her boarding party board the bridge. So now they have captured Discovery, and it's revealed that now that because the coordinates for Starfleet Command is already programmed in Discovery, she's now going to use a tandem jump with Discovery and her gigantic ship to Federation headquarters to basically annihilate Starfleet in the Federation. Also on the planet, it is revealed while Book eventually rescues Burnham, Saru and Culber decide to stay behind and try to reach the child, because it is revealed that for some reason, with this child adapting to this planet, having a weird sort of symbiotic relationship with dilithium, it seems that Su'Kal, the child himself, is in fact the source of the burn. How he exactly does that, we're not entirely certain, but Saru and Culber decide to stay behind. Also, Adira stowed away on Book's ship and beamed down with some extra radiation medicine down to the planet. And I guess they decided that they would be better used down there. So now the final shot of this episode is Book and Burnham on Book's ship, seeing Discovery and Osira's ship jump away, and they have to now find a way to get onto Discovery and save the crew. What I liked about this episode is the fact that now that we're finally starting to get some interesting, furthering in the mystery of the burn that we've been setting up this whole season long, what they're presenting is potentially very interesting. I like the fact that this child is connected to the burn. We don't necessarily know how. It looks like they're going to the conflict's going to be that it is maybe it's when the child is afraid, and so by facing the child facing its fears, like in, I guess there's a fable on Kaminar that Saru knows that is applicable to this, that will be how they resolve the burn in the future. I think that is an interesting plot point that they're introducing into the mystery of the burn this whole time. Also, we've seen dynamics between Burnham and Saru. We've seen dynamic between Saru and Culber, and to a lesser extent we've seen Culber and Burnham this season and earlier in the series as well. But we don't get these three in a room or on a planet very often. So I like that character interaction happened in this episode. Plus the quirk of the holodeck changing their appearances, while I feel like it's a bit gimmicky, it was kind of funny when I first saw it. So I was like, oh, okay. There's sort of an element of this is a child's holodeck program, so weird things are going to happen. You just kind of have to go with it. So from that point of view, it was kind of fun. I wish it had actually, affected their abilities in the program more. I feel like that way maybe justified that element inclusion in the story more. But it sounds like there's going to be more of them, or at least Saru and Culber and Adira on the holodeck in next week's episode. So maybe that'll come into play later on. What I didn't necessarily like about this episode, they kind of yada yada through a whole bunch of stuff, and it is sort of necessary to advance the storyline as it's laid out now. But I don't know. I feel like the fact that they establish first off that when Book first journeyed into this into the cloud, into the radiation field, he started partway through the field and he barely made it out of there with the radiation in order to get back to Discovery and be healed properly. And they think that would be a major obstacle, and it starts out to be. But then when he goes in his ship outside the nebula to go back to the planet and rescue Saru, doing there and back already, Book and Burnham don't seem to be any worse for the wear, and shields seem to be failing constantly, but no real consequences as a result of that. The warp cores on both of their ship, on both Discovery and the Emerald Chain ship, got destabilized momentarily, and you'd think that would be a big deal, but then they just kind of forget about it 10 seconds later. So I feels like on that point that'd be this episode's weak point, where there's some good. They kind of have to progress the storyline. They gotta hit these plot beats, and they throw an explanation of how something happens, but they throw it in really quick or not at all, and they, like I said, they just kind of yada past it, and not that I necessarily need a detailed explanation on it, I just feel like they could have handled it better, in my opinion. But that may just be me. But overall, I would say this episode did a pretty good job of setting things up going into next week's episode. We only have 2 episodes left in this season, so hopefully the mystery of the burn is settled in this season, and maybe the Emerald Chain is defeated, maybe a peace is reached with the Emerald Chain. There's always that possibility. Even though there are only 2 episodes left, I really hope that they don't do what they did last season, where it was a 2-parter and they aired both the 2-parters in 2 separate weeks, and part 1 of season 2's finale didn't really feel like it could stand on its own as a week episode, as that week's episode, and then the part 2 was much better. It looks, at least from the episode names, doesn't seem to be like it's going to be a traditional 2-parter, but I really hope that they don't go down that path. I hope that episode 12 and episode 13 are able to stand as their own episodes and still progress this chain of events. It looks like we're ramping up to something good at the end, so I really hope that they do something, that they work that out going into the end. Some things that I noticed that seemed familiar to me, and this is incomplete, I probably missed something, let me know in the comments down below, but some things that I noticed that seemed familiar to me was the fact that this away team is in effect rescuing an abandoned child, not necessarily abandoned, but a marooned child from a holodeck environment, and the child is aware of that it is a holodeck environment. That reminded me of an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Future Imperfect, where Riker finds himself seemingly in the future, but it turns out that this whole planet that he was on was a holodeck intended to serve the needs of this one child, Barash, who was abandoned, was put there for protection by his mother, who was eventually killed, and the child just wanted company. So there's a element of that. Also, while it isn't exactly the same, the fact that the away team beams down to a place and they find themselves looking different or being treated differently than what they actually are. That reminded me a bit of an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine entitled Things Past, where the away team finds themselves seemingly at Terok Nor in the past during the Cardassian occupation, and everyone else around them treats them as Bajorans. They think they're Bajorans, but they still look like themselves. Different. I mean, again, not entirely one-to-one comparison, but a similarity I think can be made there. Also, another episode of Deep Space Nine that I thought this was similar to is the tactics of the Emerald Chain here, where it is reported by Starfleet that the Emerald Chain is attacking Kaminar because they're trying to lure Discovery to Kaminar because they want to capture the spore drive. There's an element there of another episode of Deep Space Nine for the uniform, in which Sisko is trying to hunt Michael Eddington, and he purposefully attacks a Maquis planet in the neutral zone, or in the demilitarized zone, in order to draw Eddington out into surrendering himself. So there's obviously that's a tactic that's been used in history, but as far as media goes, that's something that I noticed there. But like I said, this is an incomplete list. I may have missed something. Did you see something in this episode that seemed familiar to you that I didn't say here? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, what did you think of this episode? Do you like it? Do you not like it? I personally liked it, and I'm looking forward to how they're ramping up something good in the next episodes. Hopefully that works out well. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever I can get. I meant to get this reaction review out on Christmas Eve, but Christmas Eve things happened, and I kind of forgot. So that's how this worked out. So hopefully that works out there. I'm gonna try to get my reaction to next week's episode, which drops New Year's Eve on the actual day. So we'll get that going. As also when that is uploaded, or very shortly after that, I'll be dropping my review of Wonder Woman 1984. So be sure to look for that on my channel. If you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially a subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Be sure to look for my reaction next week. Thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.